Alright, let's start the stream. It's starting. Let's get Krita up in here, and maybe I'll take the opportunity to open the project in Emacs. Hello everyone, we are live, and you don't have my head here because the setup with this tablet is not that great. I'm going to use the stylus, so it would be over my head all the time. So let's go to the turn-based RPG game concept. Sorry. I have a new keyboard right now. It's going to be a little harder than usual to type, but I'm going to keep that around. All right, and we're going to do some game art. Hold on, what is that? I come back and here's what we get. Let's go back to Robi. Okay, seems to have fixed it. Hey, actually I've got to move the other screen to the right. So I'm currently in my room. If you hear a little bit of echo in the microphone, I've put it as close as possible to my face as I could, but you may hear a little bit of echo as this is not the biggest room. Today we are working on the open RPG. I'm going to be around for 2 hours or so working on that game. I hope I put the link in the description, otherwise I'm dead. But we are currently building an RPG engine and project with Godot. It's completely open source from the start, and we already have, here you have Niklas and Salvo. I'm not sure about, I don't know your name, but we have 2 contributors already working, developing new features on top of Guilherme and PigDev, who are going to be working on that. And contributors, welcome. So now it's time to do the why is it switching to, hold on, I'm going to restart Krita because I have a little issue with the input right now. Hey, is it my keyboard? What's, come on. I have a little bit of a problem here. Just when you start the stream, isn't that incredible? Okay, so Krita seems to be crashed right now. Or is it? Okay, we're going to grab Krita here, delete the process, restart. And if the keyboard is a bit noisy, I'm sorry, it's a new one. I got a mechanical, very small keyboard. Unix layout, in case you know what that is. 60 keys, tiny, but very compact, lightweight, easy to take with you when you are traveling and all that stuff. And let me open that. There we go, we have the scene, touch off. We are good to go. So I have the 2 character sketches here on the right. I just want to see, yeah, they are a bit small. What's the document's resolution? That's why, makes sense. Okay, so we're going to double the resolution instantly, and I'm going to make the characters just big enough so that then we can post the illustrations online. Even if these are game sprites, when you have limited resources like that, you do want to make them pretty big just for the sake of being able to share them online. So the game is taking place in the world of Godot, and that's why the 2 characters are going to be Robi the robot, and we have Godette on the right. At least that's the name, Godot-chan, and that's the name she got from the community. So the idea is we're building an RPG, but I do want the characters to be at least a little unique, let's say. So the robot is going to fight with, they are going to fight with toys, and it's light-hearted game concept, at least. So I want the universe to be colorful and the characters to be attractive, to work on desktop and on mobile as well. That's what we are going for here. Okay, I'm going to lower you a little bit on the screen so it's a bit easier for me to work on you. All right, so we have the sketches. I'm going to lock them, reduce the opacity, and I'm just gonna draw some more details on the characters. Do a second pass on their faces and all. Don't want them too detailed, but I just want to add, like, define a bit better what Robi is here. I'm going to be working with some new brushes that Zile has been working on now that we are going to release in our Krita brushes. Is the sound okay, by the way? Oh, and I'm going to use the new reference tool as well. So we have Robi here. I'm going to put you on the screen. So that's Robi from the Godot third-person shooter demo. And we have Godot Chan here, the full concept. And we don't have the author's name, actually, I believe. Or do we? I think it's the concept's under CC BY license. I'll have to check that and add it to the description later. So this reference tool is really nice in Krita. I covered a program called, how was it called already? PureRef in the past. And now you have the feature built into Krita, so that's pretty cool. All right, so how is Robi? Robi has square eyes, but I really don't want that for this version of the character. So do we want thin eyes? Or what do we want? Can we make them blue? What if I make them like that, blue? And I'm using the colors from David Revoix, which they ship with Krita now, but yeah, maybe something along those lines, like shining eyes. Okay. Where am I drawing, by the way? What? Am I don't know which layer I'm drawing on, so hold on. I'm going to create a new one. All right. I'm going to take the palette as well to have it close to the, so I don't have to move my hand all the time, close to the canvas. I like that blue here. Actually it removes all the floating windows if I go in canvas only mode, so we're gonna have to work this way. I'm going to add some background on top of that. Think I'm gonna go with a mid-gray, and you use that just for the sake of having a neutral color to base the character on that should roughly be the tone of your background in the game. Are we going to make light background, dark character, or I think mid-grade is fine. All right. Because I don't have the background yet, so I do want to get a sense for the background's values, not mess it up once I get to work on like if you mess up your values on the game characters because you're working on white and in the game the background ends up being a little low contrast or something like that, or a little if the background is too dark, for example, and you made the characters dark because you were working on the white, then you have a lot of work to undo all of that. So have a good night, Edgar, and see you soon. Alright, so I guess that's what I'm going for Robi. Yeah, that is the Godot, the robot that you see. These are Godot characters, right? Alright, and now let's get up to speed. As I said, it's going to take me a little while. This brush is a little slow as well. Maybe I want something a little more reactive. All right. Some of the things I don't know how to handle is the kind of speaker head the character has. So first, I don't want the mouth to be like that. I think it's ugly. It makes it look like a puppet, you know. But the speaker here, what do you want to do? I want to have that, a bevel inside. Hold on, I want to brush with some pressure, with some texture. So otherwise it's going to be ugly. It doesn't help the concept. Yeah, you're going to see today it's going to be a bit slow maybe. First time I'm working in that position, in that place. This is kind of a test stream for that at the same time. Yeah, alright, I think now the details are fine here. We're going to work with what we have there. On the torso now. So on this version of the design, the body is reverse like that. You have like a rib cage on the character. But it makes it look a little more futuristic, which is not necessarily what we are going for this RPG. I want the character to feel... Robi in this game concept is a fearful character, so with this armor and this kind of torso, it looks more like a warrior or something like that, and I want it to look like a kid. So let's see. How is the belt working here? Don't really understand these details on the character, but there you have armed legs, and more importantly, these parts on the legs are. So you have a joint here on the knee, and you're going to have a really thick leg. Yes, the live stream will be saved on YouTube. And I'm working in Krita. And don't say the free Photoshop to the developers, because well, at least up until now they didn't really appreciate the command. It's not really, anyway, it's quite different. Like people say the same thing about GIMP, but Krita is really a painting program. GIMP is closer to an image editing program with photo retouching capabilities, but yeah, Krita would be more like the free equivalent of what Corel Painter or Paintstorm or something like that. What do we have? The shoulder pads. I don't like these, they are too small. Actually, it's the first time I'm looking closely at these third-person shooter design, and it's solid, right? It's some pretty solid 3D art there, but not the style I'm most fond of. Let's see what we are getting. Not going to make the character too detailed on this stream, because we are going to do a game sprite, but I'm making the sketch to get a sense for the character's artwork that you would use for promotion or something like that, like trying to get a sense for who the character is. So I've written a small story. Yeah, Krita is would be closest to Clip Studio Paint or Manga Studio. right? It's exactly that. Although over time it's expanding, so it's getting more features for game artists as well. While Clip Studio Paint is really staying a program for comic book artists. But yeah, definitely, that's the best comparison you can find. And yeah, the head. Okay, so we could have a detailed armor on the character and a fairly simple head like that. Now I do want this element extruded of the face. There we go, like that. And same thing on the other side. There we go. It looks it's not upright, but hold on. How do I? Yeah, like that. She's getting used to a new keyboard. Not that easy. However, my height is not good compared to the screen. I'm working on Mobile Studio Pro, so it's a computer, a tablet at the same time. It's all integrated. Hold on, how can I do better with that? I wonder. Okay, my feet are going to hurt in a little while, but let's try this. I'll take the table closer to me. Can I? No, there's the plug here. Okay, I'm gonna try it like that. Living in Japan, my office, this is what you can't see right now, but the reason I'm struggling is my workspace is literally right now 1 square meter, so it's a little tough. It's my winter setup. I think I posted it on Twitter yesterday before the stream, so that's why I may struggle a little bit on that stream, and we'll try to make it work. Okay, so what do we have there? I want it to stay round at the top of the head. I don't know what that piece is supposed to be besides being just a piece of metal, but trying to take the character, but on the original one, so the one you can see on the platformer demo, I'm not sure the artist really thought about what this was about, besides, it's missing something on the head, so let's add that, like a small hat or something like that, because the character, this robot, doesn't really have hair. But let's say it's something like, if you were seeing the character from the back, maybe that could be something like that. So you'd have the cylinder for the head, for example, and you'd have that clip at the top, and I don't know, maybe having some cables coming from the body here, like that, flowing through here, like it's the cap that lets you access the robot's brain or motherboard or something like that. You could invent a story like that, I think. Yes, I live in Japan. And actually, I was going back to, I'm coming back to Europe in March, and I plan to stay in Europe for a little while, but the turn of events makes it so I don't know, I might be studying in Japan next year. Okay, and I guess we have our design, right? How does it look? Good? It's a little detailed, so do we want to go to that level of detail for the demo? Because then you have animation and all. There's a lot of work on this one. Let's see. I want to give it some kind of poker face as well, this robot. Because it's a frightful little robot. And do we give you a nose now? Let's see. No, it's ugly. What can we give you? Yeah, no nose, just a flat surface like that. Is this running on Windows? Question. Yes, it's on Windows because this device, apparently it's not the only Wacom device with that problem, but this device in particular, the input crashes, like it's unusable, unfortunately, on Ubuntu and Pop! OS, which is derived from Ubuntu, a distribution from that company, System 76. And I wish I'm going to see with some community members offered to sit with me and help me debug that. But I still have that issue where sometimes I can boot on the external drive where Linux is installed, but also then it's not reliable. So sometimes I can boot in Linux, and sometimes, most of the time, I get a black screen. You know, so because I have to do work right now, you know, I can't afford to spend too much time on that. I spend some, and the thing is, really the experience for example, I'm using Emacs for programming, and programs just start so fast on Linux. That I really love, and if I could, I would spend a lot of time working with it already, the terminal integration and all that stuff. I really like all of that. But on this computer, I think it's going to be a little hard because it's a Wacom computer and it's not officially supported by the company. Anyway, Wacom, over time, I feel less and less confident about their devices because they are expensive, but there's driver issues. Like this computer, I've had so many blue screens and errors, and they've had to update it a lot before it just started to work, you know, on Windows, not just on Linux. On Linux, it's community supported, and it's officially supported by the drivers, but sometimes when I start the computer, I have input for 10 seconds, and it just disappears. Everything, you know. Hi there. Hi there. All right. No one told me, what do you think of the design? Does it look okay this way? Or does the original, I think the character sprite is going to be more like that to start with. And if we are to make, for example, maybe for the dialogues, having some full-size character like that would be nice. You know, I'm gonna see if anyone wants to help with line art in the community and the contributors. That would be nice, because I have limited time. Like all the time I'm going to be spending on art and all, I won't be spending on tutorials. So let's see if we can work hand in hand with people. That would be really cool. because all of this project is free, it's open source, and it's going to lead to tutorials. Now, okay, so the Robi character, I'm fine with it. The Godot-chan, not so much. Okay, not too fond of her face in particular. I'd like to find a better design, because now she looks a bit like Marshmallow or something like that. The face isn't too cute, and this character is supposed to be curious and to look energetic. That's the kind of feeling I want to convey to the viewer, so let's try to get that. So I think one of the ways we can do that is by having more manga style eyes. It's not going to work too well like that, but I think one way would be to have larger eyes like these. You want to make that evil, or is he a friendly NPC? What are we talking about? These are the main playable characters. It's not going to work if I do it this way. Okay, I've got to redraw the character, I think. Okay, let's find another brush maybe to play with. This is the speed brush. Okay, we can try with this one. So the head shape first is problematic. Manga style, slightly pointy chin. To make the character cuter, one of the things you can do is simplify the eyes and move them down on the face. So let's see if that was my insert key right here. I've got this keyboard is so messed up. But it's quite interesting to be working with something like that. So I've got a keyboard where to press lots of keys I have to press function. It's really weird, but again, very compact as well, so I'm not going to complain too much. All right, let's see. Then just a dot for the nose, or do we go away with the nose altogether? Okay, let's try that. Oh, there was a girl with an elegant haircut before at the restaurant. I should have asked her, like, for where I went for lunch. Should have asked her if I could take a picture. Would have been a nice reference for the haircut. So I'm going to use that white stroke to lead to the eye of the character. Like that. But it's quite typical, that kind of, how can I say? bowl haircut around the head is quite common in Japan, and it suits Japanese women very well, I think. Okay, and I do want something like, I want some hair strands to hang around the character's head. So I'm not looking to achieve a pure manga style, right? It's going to have some European feel to it, but just want it to be cuter than the original I drew, and I think like that for the character sprite it will be a bit better, because this one, the face feels it looks like poor mobile art, right? The first sketch. I use PopOS for daily driver, so PopOS works, but I have, again, that's the device, Mobile Studio. Do you use Blender? Yes, I do all my video editing with Blender. Have you thought about replacing your Mobile Studio with an affordable laptop and a tablet? I think that would work well with Linux. Yeah, so absolutely, that's what I'm looking to do now. I still have a few programs that I use, few tools that are Windows only. So I write with voice recognition, which there's almost nothing right now on Linux. So that's one of the bigger issues I have right now to switch. And I've got to switch, like, well, getting to work on that Krita add-on, but Razvan is going to do development on that, and until then Krita doesn't have great tools to quickly export the sprites for a game, like some tools to re-export layers in a nice folder structure and all that stuff. So we need tools for that. Once we have our add-on, like even just the basic version, I can start to work more and more with Krita. Same thing, I rely on Affinity Designer. I'm not too fond of Inkscape, and I've got to move the pipeline and the tools I use, like to get a good setup to make the YouTube thumbnails with other programs. So probably with Krita, with GIMP, something like that, making a library of SVG assets or Krita documents that you can embed in other documents. That's part of our add-on project as well. And yeah, so the thing about the computer is this computer, my units, you can't see it on the screen, but in the bottom left, the screen started popping off, and I have a yellow color in there. So I've contacted support, and they're going to replace the unit, but it's only when I come back to Europe, because the warranty is not valid in Japan for now. So when I go back home, I'm going to get a new computer, a new workstation, get a new unit for this one and sell it, right? Because I can't sell it in this state at the moment. It's broken, so yeah, I'm going to use the warranty and do that, which will make for a cheaper setup. I would like to have a static workstation if possible, but you know, I want to work with a powerful computer. I'm not the kind who will go for a cheap computer for the sake of it. I really want something that is fast, because I work every day. Sometimes I work for long hours, but yeah, I will try to see what I can get. So maybe one of System 76 computers, or at least something that is well supported on Linux. And yes, I'm also looking to move away from Wacom products, because I've had quite a bit of trouble with this device. And I think I'm fine having some trouble with the device if it's half the price or something like that, but for a computer that costs $3,000, something like that, it's too much. In Europe, it's even more expensive. Like, I have a company, so for example, when I buy something in Europe, I pay for VAT, so for tax, consumption tax, but then it's recouped from my my gross revenue, so it's as if I was not paying it. So that's a 20% difference, making it okay, let's say. Reduces the price of most devices by 20%, in a sense. But the thing is, yeah, I imagine if you pay for a computer for that much, and yeah, lots of things don't work, and now like drivers kept crashing, sometimes on Windows even. The stylus would stop working, and yeah, it's not great, really not great. Like, the drivers were clearly broken, and I've had that with Wacom devices for as long as I've used them, right? So other people have had issues with Huion tablets, but they are a quarter of the price, so I think that's fine, right? What if Wacom sponsored me? They will not, because I work, I don't represent enough money for them. If Huion offered to sponsor me, but as I told them, so they offer to, the problem is they offer to send you a tablet to kind of praise them and generate sales for them, and that's not really correct. So last time I said I can do it, but if we have a proper deal, and they were like, no, we just send you our base tablet and we want you to make videos about it. So that was a no-no for me. Because the way I work, if I'm going to do sponsored stuff, right, I'm fine giving a good word about something that's really good and that a product I respect and all, but I'm not going to praise something that I don't think is right just for money. So, I want that. I'm okay. I'd totally be okay with doing sponsorships on sponsored deals on the channel. I think it's not going to happen anytime soon because GD Quest is just way too small, and covering open source program makes it so, it's not the kind of audience a lot of people are, lots of these companies are looking for. But oops, let's see, maybe in the future, but in this case anyway, I'm the kind who would definitely announce it very clearly that this video is sponsored by, and obviously, and be very honest as well with the product. I don't know, I've got to think about it, because when you see for example in the US, like, I see quite a few channels do shameless like promotion for products, but in a way they're really like reading a script that is praising the company or the product that they obviously don't test or something like that. And on the one hand, this seems to be common enough so that probably Americans watching it, I guess that they understand that this is an ad in a sense, and because you can hear and you can see that the person is reading a script, is following a script, so I'm not sure if that is good or not. You've really got to measure the goods and the bads of all that. I prefer to go with crowdfunding like we have until now. And we're going to run a new crowdfunding campaign and use other sources of funding to do the projects that we want to do the way we want to do them, right? They should take this channel seriously. Yeah, Godot is going to grow and all, but it's just compared to some other YouTube channels. This one is slow growing, and it's also like videos don't get that many views because it's educational. If I started to make videos that are a bit more eye-catching or something like that, you'd see more views for each of them. So simpler content and things that are really like, oh, look at the new features in X, and new feature release for every new version of every software that we cover, and the 5 amazing things, and catchy titles and things like these. If you do that, you can get more views. But I don't work like that. I'm into open source, right? And PigDev also, who's working with me, and Raspan, we have the same vision where we're looking to embrace open education and all one step at a time. So trying to help people learn and share together in the long run, which we are doing with baby steps, right? Making free content on the YouTube channel is one thing, but there's more to come. So then there's been tools since last year and really this year, open tools, and we're looking to get more contributors into working with us. Let's see if all of that works. It seems to be working with the RPG project, at least. We're starting to see developers join the adventure, and I hope that if we can't do that with tools, I really wish we can do that with the tools we make. So we have our video editing tools with Blender, and there's a few contributions, but it's taking a lot of effort to get just 1 or 2 persons to contribute occasionally. But on the games, it seems that we can get something. We can really get people to work together with us. Anderson, I did want to understand. I would like to understand English perfectly. It will come. It takes time. And I am using Windows, because Linux is not working on this computer, unfortunately. Well, I should say this computer is not working with Linux, because I think that's... do you see Japanese developers embracing open source tools? Not so much. So from what I see for now, Japanese people are a lot less into open stuff and free stuff, like free with a capital F, than Europeans. So open source is really strong in Europe, and maybe in the corporate world in America. So everything that has to do with web and all, because larger companies understand the value of open source for business, right? But Japanese people, still a lot of businesses seem to be old-fashioned, and using open source would really be about, it's not going to cost us anything and we can do the job with it, so let's use it. But it's because the program is free, not because it's open. Again, in web technologies, wherever you are, open source is kind of standard now, because you can get outstanding technologies from experienced engineers and all. So that's a no-brainer. You know, you want to use open source. But yeah, Japanese people, nah, not so much. And a lot of Japanese developers, they need education in Japanese because their English is very limited. So the young people now are maybe getting a little better at English, but whoa, I pressed delete. But it's still an issue. What's the music? What's the music? I forgot to put the link in the description, maybe? Normally it's in the description all the time. Oh, there's that cat again. It's afraid. Every time it sees me, it flees. But what time? Wow, it's 3 p.m. already. Okay, the stream is going to be more than 2 hours. But this means I'm gonna get some more water, okay? Now we have the character sketches, so we have more detailed characters. Please tell me in the chat what you think about them. I'm just going to write here on the screen that, well, I'm going to make coffee. It's going to take a few minutes, and I'm going to get some water. Sorry, I don't have a pre-made coffee, so... Thanks, Anderson. Hola, Anderson. Obrigado. I could do some basic yeah, sorry, I don't have a mouse here. I want to hold on the chat. There's just that problem. Let me crap, I can't go with that tool. I can't go on the other screen. Okay, so we're gonna go on the chat and come on, keyboard control is not that great. Okay, does it work? Yes, it worked. Okay, so I could do that with the keyboard, and now I'm back on that screen. There's a comment from Eldro. I used to work in IT in a Japanese plant before. They have a standard tool mentality. Not that is bad. I'm not sure. It's not that bad. Maybe you meant that. But they like to be able to use the same tools everywhere. So open source is not that accepted. I should add to that Windows is the standard, like crushing standard in Japan. And same thing, OS X is also the mobile market is maybe 90% iPhones. Seems to be that way, at least. So yeah, I've seen there are quite a few Blender users, but Linux is almost unheard of outside of really IT people and engineers who might use it on the job. My former partner is a Linux sysadmin at SoftBanks, so obviously they use Linux for servers and embarked systems and all that stuff. But yeah, it's now open source is, even the word open source in Japanese, very few people I've met have ever heard of that. In France, because there's a pretty strong culture behind it, even the average consumer, if you say open source, say, oh, that's free stuff. Right, at least not free with a capital F, but at least they kind of see what that is, or it's made by people benevolently, or things like these. But Japanese people, the word's like, what? Free software? What? Linux? What is that? That's the kind of reactions I get. Okay, so coffee time. Hold on, we're going to use the text tool. Let's see, does it work? almost never used it. Let's see. I think I have to select everything, then to change. Okay. Hey, I have, okay, it's ordered like that. Okay, that's a bit weird. There we go, save. I can't wait for this to be like for the UX that the UX improvements that Scott is working on. Okay, so I'm gonna do that. Can I? No, I can't recolor the text like that. What if I right-click properties? No. So I have to go back to the text tool and click on it. Sorry, I'm very curious about that. Nope, doesn't work. How do I edit you? Enter. Okay, select the text and press enter. Then we're going to change the color here. All right. And then reference tool, select that. There we go. Okay, my workspace is a little bit of a mess, but it should do the trick. All right, do I hide these? Nah, I think the new sketches are a little cleaner than the original. So, coffee time. See you in a few moments. 5 minutes, roughly. sorry for having you wait. Actually, I've got to get some water as well. Right, I forgot the glass. Come on. Well, I'll go in a few moments. I'm going to turn the lights on. Ah. What's happening? Coffee time. Yay! And I'm back. How is the stream quality, by the way? Because the internet from my room, it's not so great. Are you coming to the Godot conference next year in February? No, I will still be in Japan. I'm coming back on the 28th of February or 27th, so too late. But for the Godot conference, we'll see with Aiken, Remy, and I said I could do a live stream or something like that from here. Okay, let's get back to it. What do we have in there? Nothing? What do we have here? Just a bit of text. So the idea was to say the character is going to have a kendama, or how do you say that? How do you pronounce it in English? Bilboquet? Bilboquet? I don't know. Not sure. Hello everyone. Okay, so I'll definitely try to stream for the GodotCon, like do a conference, but go, because for the first GodotCon, for example, yeah, was it the first one? Yeah, the first one. So Juan couldn't be there, so what we had is he just did a video conference, and that was great. Alright, so we have the character. These aren't, I would say, something like concepts, or it's full body concepts. So it's still based on the game sprites proportions, but these are for, how could I say, these would be, for example, for the dialogues in the game, because Henrique is responsible for integrating the dialogue system now. So now I'm going to make the game sprites. Hold on. I'm going to take Robi's head again. Well, it's kind of the same. So now we're going to work on the actual game sprites, because I want these done today. Just at least these two characters, and maybe Kitty, the third character, but there we go. So I'm going to make a copy of the sketches. Back to full resolution. I'm going to try to flatten them. It's back to control. It's Control E now. That's good. Okay. Okay, let's see. Next up, what do we have here? These two I'm going to merge. So these are sketches. Alright, and you're going to be hidden as well. And this is a piece of reference that shouldn't be part of the document, but it'll do the trick. The robot could use exaggeration on the features, maybe slightly bigger feet and hands. Yeah, definitely. That's correct. Okay, it's a bit slow. Right, let's grab you like that and delete. I'm finally getting my shit together. Excuse my French. Yeah, actually, so small bit of life stuff, but so I'm dating a Japanese at the moment, and well, there are cultural differences, and she does ballet, so she's a dancer, and she likes French culture and all, and she wanted to learn a few French words. So one of the expressions I taught her is like really bad, and she's actually a guide for she's guiding people who come here on travel. And she, like the French, she had a French traveler. I don't know the age or something, but probably an adult, and probably someone in their 30s or 40s, and she told them, I told her to say nique sa mère, which means it's kind of the motherfucker in American. But the thing is, French people use it in a positive way as well. Like, this is so cool. In that case, it's like when Americans say it's, or English speakers say it's fucking cool. You know, it's slang, but it's very common in French. Quite common, especially where I come from. And she told them that, and the people were like, "What? Who told you that? It's horrible." It's like, what? This person. This is a bad French person. You should not listen to them. You should not listen to him. Yeah, fingers crossed. Keep it up with Godot. Want to see what you do with it. All right. Now with that copy of the character, I'm going to have that. Going to have another copy of these sketches for colors, much smaller this time around. Like that. Ah, I messed up. There we go. Hide all these. Set you to be at a lower resolution, because right now we're going to work on the character's strokes. So the big question is, do we go with clean strokes? I'm not sure that anyone will contribute art at the moment. So the question is, can we use this brush or a specific brush? Because the thing is, if there are contributors coming and they are using another program, they won't have access to this brush, which has a little bit of texture that would be nice for strokes, just to keep a tiny bit of character in the game. You can see it's not a huge amount of details that it's adding, but it does offer some. Or do we go with something really generic like that? Yeah, okay, I'm going to assume that someone will eventually want to contribute, so we're gonna go with that. 30 seems fine. We're going to use the stabilizer, even though I'm not biggest fan of the stabilizer's feel in Krita, but it's good. It's good, but I've gotten used, you know, I've made the trailer for, how is it called? Lazy Nezumi. And since I did that, I've been working with that tool. The feel is absolutely perfect. And Krita's tool has tiny bits of, every time you put up a stroke, it feels, you can feel, even with a low setting, you can feel it's lagging behind. Like it's snapping to the start position or something like that. You can feel it. Even if the value is small. And let's remove the finish line, stabilize. What can we do? Scalable distance. I've got to get used to the feel again. I've got to get back into art and painting, because I've been doing mostly vector art in the recent past, and you can see I'm not as comfortable with it as I used to be. the position being different doesn't help as well. Yeah, I think I'm going to use weighting, because at least with weighting compared to the stabilizer, there's no induced lag. It's much cleaner. I don't know why the it's the stabilization algorithm that works that way in Krita, but it's a little different from other programs, I think. And what? Alexander? Sorry. Hi, will you be affected by chapter 13 on? Copy. Sorry, Alexander, I don't get your question. And yes, I'm French. Cursing is the first thing you learn in another language, so your girlfriend is on the right path. Yeah, actually, I tried to learn that in Japanese, and you just... I was so sad to learn that you can't, because it's just not so many curse words in Japanese. The closest you have to curses in Japanese are, how could I say, shitsure. You have a bit of slang if you want. There's some slang terms, and you might have just some words that are, how can I say, not courteous or insulting to the person you use them towards, but there's no fun, there's rarely a fun connotation to the word, so often it's just insulting, right? And then there's the words that use in mangas and all, but not in real speech. So instead, like, humor is quite, you don't have a lot of humor related to that, right? You may joke with this as a foreigner, but with other foreigners, not with Japanese people. Sometimes I have one friend with whom I can do that, one good friend, but RTZ, what was your question? I'm new to in Krita. Do you suggest any good brushes? Yeah, the default ones, they are good. Krita ships with a pretty good set, and then you have our brushes, but this new version of them is not out yet, and it's also not free, although we have a free set, but they both need updates, and we're going to update the paid set first. The big reason being, making Krita brushes takes so much time. That's one of the limitations of Krita's brush system. It's they are simplifying it, but it's really complicated compared to other tools. You have overhead, you have extra work that you may not have with other tools. Like, you've got to make the thumbnails, for example, for the brushes, and I can understand the reason, but I'm all for things that you can automate. Like, when it comes to content, I'm all for automation as much as you can. And Krita's brushes, well, you can't automate creation that much. That's one of the cases where we've had that discussion with Budioin and with the developers and the team, and like, we disagreed on. I'm of the idea that you're much better having a generated brush strokes by default and having a solution like you have in PaintStorm. Well, they're not going to change it now in Krita, but you can add all the tools you want, making the brush creation 2 steps, having to first create the preset, which already takes a lot of time, and then also create the thumbnail is just overhead. makes it harder to standardize the brushes, all that stuff. But it's not inherently bad or something. It's just it's a lot of work to make it. It's more work than in any other program to make Krita brushes. So as no one, like the open source Krita brush set that we have, as absolutely no one contributed to it. The thing is, maintaining it for free. We have tons of things to work on, and Krita brushes take a particularly huge amount of work, so they're not a priority now. At least if there's, so the other reason is, at least if there is paid support, if we have clients on the brushes, what happens is now I hire Illustrator professional painter to make them, but I mean, if someone is doing freelance work on that, it costs a lot, so we have to make the money back, because GD Quest is really running, I wouldn't say it's not horrible, but we're running on the edge, so there's not, just like any open source project and all, it's not like we have a lot of money to spare. And at least, even if there's no profit, I want, for example, when I hire someone to do work, I should at least recoup the amount one way or another. Otherwise, it's not viable. Ben is saying, got a question. I'm having a hard time understanding Godot's node system. Give me advice for it. Yeah, but not in that stream maybe, because Alexander said you will be affected by Article 13 copyright, that you cannot do anything more than what you do, and there will no longer be copyright on your works. What? Are we talking about the American, like the YouTube thing, Article 13, that's... But no, the GD Quest is not going to be affected. We have tutorials about Krita brushes. Yeah, Ben, sorry, it's just for now I recommend to check the tutorials that we have on the topic in the Godot tutorial series and all that stuff, but as you can see, focusing on the sprite and talking at the same time is taking quite a bit of concentration, so talking about development and technical aspect of the game engine while painting is just not possible at the moment. All right, time to do this a little faster. So I'm going to try to make front sprites. Actually, I should check. I want to build the character so we can kind of animate it. So let's see. I'm gonna pick. I had one I downloaded from that experienced artist. I'm going to use it as a reference. Where is it? Probably in my folder mess. Where is it? Hold on, I have him on Twitter. Ah, messed up. And his... Hold on. His handle is Rakugaki. No. It is Ramune. Yes. This one. Japanese artist who makes absolutely stunning game art. Let's look at his pictures. Because there are not so many. Well, it's Japan, so meat, obviously. Lots of meat. Always meat on every meal. There we go. This character, I think he put the sheet up, which is what I'm interested in here. Ground, da -da 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 -da. Where was it? Great reference for the character scan. There you go. Which program was it? I don't remember. Sprite Studio is it called? But I actually have it on the desktop. Where is... because it's .large at the end. Hold on. Okay, it seems to be fine. Alright, you can see how the guy's been cutting that sprite. Okay. So yeah, Godot's node system is quite different from ECS, but I would say it's not just about object-oriented design. It's really the goal of this system is to allow you to think from your game's design. And okay, so the short story about the node system is you have a tree of nodes, you put functionality in them, and you split it across node. And the lower you go down in your hierarchy, the more specialized the node becomes. That's kind of the idea. So you have your, for example, the top node is always the viewport, the root. And as you dive down into the node tree, you go down, so you might have a Y-sort node, for example, to sort the sprites on the screen and things like these. And the more you go down, especially on the UI, the more you dive down into the widget and then the gauge and all that stuff. And the thing, I'm saying it's not just about object-oriented programming, because I think beyond the paradigm, you have features in the engine that allow you to do a number of things. And Godot relies on object-oriented programming, but it relies on I would say a subset of it. So it really focuses on aggregation. Nodes can be run in isolation, and that is what makes it work instead of using a entity component system. So every node that you have is a bit like a component, if you want. You can think of it that way, except that it is self-contained, right? So instead of affecting a host, it just works on itself. But it's a component in that it might be a self-contained UI element. So it might be a Unity scene or a prefab, or it could be a bit of anything, really. That's the point, at least. And that's really a thing that's easy to miss at first. It's not that easy to get. Even for me, it was not the easiest thing. I've had to learn a lot. Like I read up a lot on object-oriented programming when I got started with Godot, and then I got to forget a lot about what I read. Well, because you also find a lot of strange resources on object-oriented programming. Some things that are really technical and verbose at time and not very practical. And I think Godot's system is meant to be very practical. Yeah, I wouldn't compare the nodes to game objects, to blank game objects, because nodes already do a lot of things, which is part of what makes them complicated. Because there's that whole notion of adding and removing things from the tree on the fly in Godot, which you don't necessarily have in Unity, which is not the same as loading and unloading objects as well. You reparent them, you move them around, you manipulate them, you connect them with signals as well, so you send messages that way a lot. But the rule of thumb, I would say, in Godot, because like in Unity, I don't know if that is still the case, but back when I used it, to make objects communicate between one another, especially through the editor, you would add a field and you would store references from one object to another, right? And that was a pretty dirty way to do it, but that's just Unity 3.5 and 4.0 beta. That's at least how we did it back then. And in Godot you have the built-in, it's like the observer pattern, but not exactly. It's really, it's a pretty elegant system to make things communicate together, although obviously if you send lots of messages everywhere, it soon becomes a mess. But yeah, I think Godot really has its own concepts and paradigms, and you've got to work with them quite a bit to get the hang of them. But I would say in theoretical terms, you want to think aggregation over composition, if you want, when you are building objects. So you want to make your nodes run, or your scenes runnable on themselves with the F6 key. When you open a scene in Godot, if you can't run it, if it's going to crash if you try to run it, if it has external dependencies, you are probably doing it wrong. Not always, but chances are you are doing it wrong. Jeez, I feel so slow. You can really tell that I've been spending like most of my time doing other things, so doing a lot of code for one. You know, I used to be a game artist, and now I really feel like, well, I really feel slow in Krita. It's just maybe that I'm not used to painting anymore. And it's a slow process. You have to be patient with it, which I lost that patience, I think. Because now that I say that, if I think of it, the last game art job I had, I think to make all the game sprites that the client wanted, I spent something like just to make a base game scene and all the sprites and all, and I'm the kind who worked fast. I was not the best artist, but I could deliver professional work in a reasonable amount of time, even as a junior artist, because I'm more of a, I learned the program, the shortcuts and all that stuff. I don't just paint and draw. I'm a more technical guy, if you want. And it took like 70, if I remember, my quote was like, I was at 70 something hours of work. Well, a really experienced artist can obviously deliver more in reasonable in less time, but okay, let's just build the. I'm going to try and paint a little faster here for the stream and split the assets afterwards because it's taking time now. How did the guy make? I should really add that reference around here. Hold on. Reference tool. We're going to add this one. Because I really like the character art. Yeah, the eyes are particularly big. I can try to do something like that. Let's see if it would work. Although the guy is a really experienced artist, can do stuff that I can't deliver, I'm afraid, but let's try to do that. So Godette has teal eyes, and we can well, the fact I'm using a new keyboard doesn't help, really. On top of that, this keyboard is really hard to use. But let's try. All right. By the way, one tip when you are doing art is really you have to know you have to be patient, you have to take it slow, and well, you have to be willing to fail for one, to keep working through your failures, because for example, even me now looking at the character, I'm like, I know it's okay, and I know I can do somewhat professional work, but I don't find my sprites great. You know, I also have eyes that are trained enough at this point so that I can see that my work is far behind the work of fellow more experienced artists, because I also do a bit of photography, graphic design and all that stuff. I'm a better graphic designer than I am at drawing and doing game art, you know, because I've done that more than actually drawing lately over the past few years. Okay, so he seems to be using some color along those lines, like a really saturated color that slightly derives or complements the skin color, and there's a bit of painting also in that art, so that makes it really shine and pop, but that won't be for that game. One thing that's especially important though is to have that shininess on the eye, so let's try to build it back into the teal eye. Hold on. Press that. Okay. Armory 3D is nice, but does it have a future? Is it about Armory 3D? Or what are we talking about? Yeah, the reference character is great, and the artist who makes that is also pretty great, right? And yeah, I think we should really have some more, like a brush like this. No, this one has texture to it. How about you? No, you have texture as well. How about these ones? Yeah, soft ones. So Ah, why is it messing up the shortcuts? Okay, so overlay, nope. Multiply. Ah, come on. Not multiply, so I'm going to multiply you with blue. And then go back to normal mode. Yeah, I think a bit of shade on the characters won't hurt. Okay. Also, one thing, now that I'm thinking about it, one thing to note on the character is as you are building the first character sprite, I'm taking design decisions as I'm doing that, okay? And I'm taking it slow, and it's the most painful sprite to make for me, always. And once you guess, you want to slowly work your way past that. Sorry. You not only want to get it done, but take the time, you know, to do it through, completely finish it, so that the next character, you have the style, you have the workflow, you have things like these, so you can go ahead and keep working. And yeah, definitely my eye is horrible compared to his. However, Krita is slowing down already, and it's crashing. We had that bug again where it draws strokes like that. How about this one part? I think the pupil is messed up at the moment. This is also pretty messed up. Color is not right. Let's go back to black for now. Okay, it's fine. I'll do the trick. What do you think? Hey Jill, been a while. Armory 3D is ran by a single man, working alone and not building a community of developers. It's probably going to fail. Is it? I'm not sure if it ever got included into Blender and got some resources and got part of the development, you know, integrated to the workflow, benefited from the tooling and experience of the Blender developer. I'm not following Armory closely, but you know, I think it seems to have potential now. Godot has a lot more potential, obviously. Godot is really skyrocketing slowly but surely, so I can tell you that Godot is, well, Gilles knows it as well, but for people watching the stream here, you may not, well, there are hundreds of contributors, so it's easy to see that Godot is doing really well for an open source project, but not everyone might realize that, and Godot is really outstanding, and that there's a reason anyway. If the GitHub team has been putting it forward, during jams and all, and in some pages it's because they understand how well this is doing as an open source project. Okay, thanks. Some highlight in the up corner of the eye. Which up corner are we talking about? Not sure, but at least I'm going to add some shade in here. You know, I'm trying to make the character, like, give it that slightly vector shade and all, but really have a lot more experience with painting, and it doesn't feel that comfortable for me to do that. I think I should stick, you know, I'm doing that thinking, what if people come and they want to contribute, but truth be told, only a dedicated artist maybe would contribute, and in that case, if person's dedicated enough, and if we have contributions from a professional, should be able to adapt to the art style. But I can't wait for us to have our tools for Krita, because, for example, there's a workaround the fact that the program is slowing down at the moment and that I am getting some lags because of the amount of layers and the canvas size. So what we want to have is some tool to take, you'd group, for example, the entire character here, and just have a tool to export it straight as a document and convert that document to a file layer, because Krita has full non-destructive support, like has a full non-destructive workflow, which is the reason why I've been supporting it from the start versus something like GIMP. Although GIMP had a much larger community when I got started. I mean, I respect the work the game developers are doing and have been doing. It's great. But this is the ability to work non-destructively and to embed documents in one another is actually essential. And for the next stream, I've really got to customize that again, because going through my brushes is not very efficient. Hold on, which one were we using? I think this one. Yeah, I've got to rebuild that muscle memory with Krita. And then I need this to be larger on that side. Not larger like that. Hold on. Yeah, that conjunction of new keyboard, haven't done Krita art for a little while, and game art as well. It's really not so efficient, but all right. By the way, I don't remember who said it was, yeah, it looks kawaii. Onato-san is... Do you... Any reason you have a... How can I say? Nickname in katakana? I've seen quite a few people from South Asia with... I've had people from Malaysia talking to me and all, and they like to have a Japanese style nickname. Today I met some girls who grew up in Hong Kong, and they said people are crazy about Japan there. And I was quite surprised actually to hear that. And yeah, it's quite interesting actually. Anyway, if you are Japanese, Japanese people probably wouldn't use katakana for their name, as it can be, it could be slightly, it's not insulting if you do it for yourself, but it's a little weird. I've been using Manga Studio mostly. I wish I could optimize Krita more. The shortcuts and symbols are a bit odd, sometimes restrictive. Yeah, there are bugs and all. Still, it's only getting better. So again, like the Krita developers have my trust that it's just like the project is. Well, I'll be honest. Having looked at Krita's source code, and I have Razvan now working with me, and we've been talking about it a few times. And Krita's source code, like Godot's sources, they are both C++, right? I'm not a C++ developer, so I won't pretend to know what they should be doing. But I can tell that Godot's source code is very easy to read, and Krita's source code is quite hard to read. Like the code is, sometimes it's super complicated. And I've been through Blender's source code, and obviously there are areas of Blender that are complex, right? And it's C and all that stuff, but for the area I'm interested in, I could go and read the code and make sense of the code structure. But Krita, even Razvan, who's a more experienced developer than me, and who's done low-level programming, was looking at Krita and telling me, whoa, that sometimes the code is so bad. Not because like it's professional code, but some of it is over-engineered. It's something seem like the layer system, for example. I was looking at it to create a plugin, and it's a node system, a bit like that of Godot, except in Krita, it's super hard to. It takes a little while to understand how it works, even knowing that of Godot. And when you see that of Godot, where it's as simple, where you can reparent children and very easily, it just works. In Krita, it's not that easy. And this has been a pretty tough journey so far. So I think they are working with a very old code base that has some parts that are just old, some other parts that are very complicated and that have been untouched for a long time. I don't know about the project's entire history, but it seems they have a bit of that, unfortunately for them. Hold on, what did I do? Okay. Then regarding performances, for example, it's really gotten a lot better. And the thing is, when you compare it to other open source projects, I mean, Inkscape and GIMP, they also have their performance limitations, say. So Krita's not doing too bad in that regard. You are from... Onato-san says he's from Turkey, learning Japanese. Okay, so that's what I expected. So yeah, things like kawaii, for example, these are words that you learn early on from manga and all that stuff that Japanese people don't say that often, actually. Well, they do use the word kawaii, but there are many more adjectives you can use. depending on the situation, so that don't use it that much, let's say. Nope, it's the wrong. Okay. Is touch on? Okay, touch was on. What are we at? Okay. Keep things simple for now. Not going to have the nose. Maybe, I don't know. I think she's missing something without nose. But the nose makes it feel quite European style art instantly. Would you recommend Godot, using Godot to learn C++? Well, using, no, but if you want to learn engine development, contributing would be pretty good, probably. Side hair, there is none between the face and the ear. Yeah, sure. This will come a bit later. Whoops. Yeah, so that's how he does it. He uses 1, 2, 3, probably 4 sprites. 3 or 4? Actually, yeah, I can see the sprites on the side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 4, 5, 6, the ribbon. Okay. So that would be these two I have. Can make it a bit larger. And so then he has some kind of sprite like that. But Godette has her hair attached in the back, so let's have something along those lines. Geez, I've really got to get used to that keyboard. I think it's going to take a little while. The position really doesn't help because I'm sitting against the wall. It's really awkward, but hold on. What do we have? Okay. Got to re-optimize my shortcuts layout as well. Well, I hope it's fine that you can bear with me. These streams are really not meant as tutorials or anything. They are work along, or you can ask questions. That's really the goal where we can chat. If I make one as some kind of what? Come on, use the wrong layer. Well, that's fine. Okay, we're going to overwrite that one. But yeah, if I make one as a lesson again, like I've tried to do in the past, I actually need to prepare for it. It's not the same idea, really. So where do we place you now? I want to have some of these, but I'm not sure they are the best idea. Okay. I think one thing I'm going to do, I've done that in Blender yesterday, and I can really geez, moving the layer is so slow sometimes. Sometimes that's probably the main thing with programs like these is same thing with video editing in Blender. It's great until you start to lose that instant feedback on the keys you press, and you really want to keep that as much as you can. So that's one reason why people stick to paid programs when it comes to art, and that's why I've been using Affinity Designer lately over something like Krita. I really want to, like, if I'm going to cover a program in tutorials, I really don't want to use another program and optimize my workflow with it to then go back to working with something like Krita and having to do that work twice for the tutorials, right? But the lack of instant feedback can, well, it eats time, right? So what's your thoughts on Blender 2.8? Grease pencil seems to be useful with what you're producing. Yeah, actually, I'm really interested in the grease pencil and getting back into 3D art. But at the same time, I like the work the Krita devs are doing, and I want to keep supporting them. I think what would be best is if over time we could grow with GDQuest enough so that I could have a professional illustrator and tutor working with Krita, at least part-time to start with. Would really love that. A game artist or illustrator. And then if we could, I would rather do art with something like Blender, yeah. And I've been contemplating the possibility of doing even graphic design with Blender, because it has much better type support now in Blender 2.8 compared to a tool like Inkscape. GIMP has been getting much better in the type front, but you know, I'd be more comfortable with something like Vector, so the ability to use the flexibility of scalable graphics, the ability to zoom in, to move things around a little more. Okay, this head face is not that great. I really need some shading in there, because otherwise it looks a little too flat to me. Okay, so that's no. Which one are we going to use? From the legacy brushes, I think this one. Yeah, that's really something that we need. So now, don't want something that pink. Let's lean into the orange a little bit, and I'll be a bit better, but let's see moving forward. I really hope that another experienced artist will join the fray and give a hand here, give some art feedback. That would be super valuable. eventually, but like that maybe it'll be better. You lost. Oh, come on. Disconnected. Sorry for that. Yeah, that's the local internet connection. Fortunately. Okay, I think for the hair it's the same thing, like without shading it doesn't look too great, and so yeah, bouncing between the brushes is really not efficient. I've got to add them as favorites, so assign to my favorites here, and the second one will be this one, two I'm using. I hope it works now, because it used to reset every time you would start Krita, but at least it doesn't. Okay, okay, okay. Should really use a different color though for that. Lighter blue, more saturated. Let's see. Are these assets for a project? Yep. Open JRPG. It's in the video description. The links in the video description. However, yeah, I'm starting to get too much lag now. Every brush stroke, like I have to wait to see what's happening. Not too great. Okay, yeah, with a bit of shading it doesn't look as bad, but start merging. Yeah, but no. If I could merge, I would. It's just I can't. The entire point is to have a cutout character, so you don't want to merge things. The thing is, in Photoshop, this amount of layers is nothing, but for Krita, it's still too much to handle. That's why again, I'm waiting for like Razvan is doing a bit of work on Power Sequencer to give us some important workflow improvements to produce the videos. So that's still what we do mainly, and it should be, it's probably going to be done this week, after which he's going to do a bit of work on the Krita brushes, and then on the Krita add-on. Come on, we got to move around, but there's no space here. But maybe, yeah, I can. Okay. Anyway, this character is nothing outstanding, so I think I'm gonna start to get to work on. No, that is a no. You keep this one around. Maybe I can merge a few layers together. See, you should go with the hair in here. Photoshop preemptively takes memory. It's heavy from the start. I mean, in my experience, the thing with Photoshop is it stays reactive. Like, you can really push it very far. I've had documents running with thousands of layers, and it still runs. So I've had up to 1,000 layers, and it can handle them, no problem. So I wouldn't expect and ask the same thing of Krita, but doing professional work, the ability to handle, let's say, 200 layers, something like that would be nice. But I understand that it's a lot easier said. These kinds of things are much easier said than done. So it's not. How could I say? It's not that they don't want to or anything, and it's not easy at all. And they are concerned. Like in the past, there's been maybe 2 years ago, the conversations with the Krita team were a bit, not the Krita team, but like Budjewin and all. I remember reading a few times like Krita is faster than Photoshop or things like these, and it was like, yeah, no, but that's not correct. But basically they didn't really, like, you could feel performances were a hot topic, and because so many people kept talking, like mentioning that, okay, we need better performances on Krita and all, after a while they changed, like the conversation changed on that end, and now the way they present it is, we're always concerned with performances and we will keep improving them. So that's good. Yeah, that's good for that. There's been a time where that wasn't the line, and unfortunately that was a bit. I can understand the point Budjewin had at the time. Budjewin is the project's administrator, and I think he's a really kind guy, but he's a pure developer. So he's not into communication. I don't think, how could I say? He's probably not too fond of community management. That's the feeling I got, at least, having conversations with him in the past, because he's busy and all, but on a project like Godot, for example, if I make tutorials and all, the Godot people will people keep in touch with me, right? While the Krita team, absolutely no one ever messaged me. No one. I said in the past, I can make videos for you and things like these. And there's a Scott with who does UX design, with whom we talked a little bit at times. But unlike the Godot developers, the Krita guys, no one ever kept in touch with me. I send the emails, So from that, I get that they're not necessarily, they don't necessarily think about things like communication, marketing as much as a project like Godot and or Blender, for example. They do it, right? But it's just not as natural for them, I think. Anyway, yeah, the thing is that was the line of communication was regarding performances in the past was, well, it probably puts quite a few users off, I think. Because, for example, I can stick to a project when, someone tells me something like that, but if you take the average professional and you tell them, for example, like back in the day, that was Krita is fast enough, the performances are... I've received these messages, Krita is fast and the performances are good, right? And you say that to any professional from a company and they'll be like, no, goodbye, most likely. Because for example, people who use Linux and who always used open source programs might not realize the gap there is between and that people like Adobe programs are not I've read that from open source users in the past that some of these proprietary programs, people acting like the design is stupid on Adobe programs and all that stuff, but no, they are very efficient already. And despite the company's politics, if large companies stick with them, it's not just because they are standard, it's because they have a wealth of features as well, and they are very fast, right? And they also have the pipelines and people trained with them and all, but like, for example, the training I think is not as important for 2D programs as it might be for 3D programs. If you are in a company where you have to do illustration and things like these, as long as your program can output PSD, like your boss will not mind if you're not using Photoshop, but what they'll mind is that you can output compatible files and that you can work fast, right? And so to keep the delays, you may not be able to work with Krita. Photoshop doesn't use more than 3 cores of CPU and 0 GPU? No, that would be... Krita brushes are faster than Photoshop? No. Clearly, like the drawing performances in Photoshop, even for painting, is much higher in Photoshop. And Photoshop has GPU computing for painting. It might have been CUDA only in the past. I'm not sure, but they've had a full GPU engine for a long time. And yeah, I'm talking even painting. Like you could paint with 5,000 pixels brushes, almost real time in Photoshop. The brush engine is much simpler in Photoshop as well. But you know, I've worked with Photoshop professionally for years, and I've worked with Photoshop in parallel with Krita for a long time. Now I don't have it anymore, right? But no, Photoshop in all areas, everything was like painting. The last test I did with trying to get slightly similar brushes between Krita and Photoshop was about 100 times faster. You did test on Quadro 4000 and Photoshop didn't use the GPU, so it sounds either like a bug or that GPU painting was disabled in your settings. Because it definitely has a GPU engine, rendering engine. So the gap is, even now, the gap is still huge. Like Photoshop has always been instant on me. I've extremely rarely experienced lags, even while painting. Otherwise, honestly, if it was like that, if it was slow like that, professionals would not use it. I mean, other programs, for example, PaintStorm is pretty fast as well. People would use that instead. It's just a no-go for professional work. You know, performance is always, you know, people always want more. People always want instant feedback. I would say it's only natural for like in every version, people expect more performances, faster, everything. And it's been true for Photoshop users, as people will always, by the way, that was Budioin's point 2 years ago when we first talked about performances. I was saying, you know, for professionals, it won't cut it, and Krita is slow at the time. And he had a point saying that people will always want the program to get faster, and there will always be people who won't be satisfied with the performances. And I can tell you that even with Adobe programs, for example, people always want the programs to be faster, to start faster, to draw faster, bigger files and all that stuff. You know, you can make a simple test as well. Work on an 8,000 by 8,000 document in Krita and Photoshop just for spend, I don't know, a few hours painting, and compare the experience in both. Krita still cannot handle it, unfortunately. The transform tool is especially slow as well. I hope that someday you can get some funding to rewrite that one or something like that, because that's one where Budioin said a few times, you know, we can't fix it. And when developers say that, it's like, well, it's tricky to do, so it would probably take dedicated full-time work for like quite a bit of work. But this move tool is especially slow. It probably sounds like I'm talking pretty bad of the program right now, but truth be told, I have affection for the program. I like the tools, I like it, and I really appreciate the developers' work. So you should give Krita a chance, because these things can be not as comfortable as you'd like them to be sometimes, but this program is important. You know, it's important that we have free software like these, and feature-wise, it's impressive. Krita is really impressive. and even performance-wise, it's impressive, and it's only gotten better. When I started using it, it was so slow. Like compared to now, it has nothing to do with what Krita was in the beginnings. Use graphic processor was set to max in my test. Then you definitely have a problem with the graphics card, or with the driver, or maybe it's unsupported. But it definitely shouldn't. You definitely shouldn't get that. But one thing, however, is Adobe is one big difference between a project like Krita and Adobe. Adobe has been shipping bugged versions of Photoshop a few times for a company that is worth billions of dollars, right? And Krita, yes, there are bugs and all that stuff, but it's not like other proprietary programs are always super stable either. And they do that with very limited means, and they are very passionate about what they do. So I respect that. Definitely respect that. Let me see. How did he set up? Okay, body. You have a torso. You have back down to the character's bum that is covered by the arms. Here, yeah, this is pretty clever. And then you have the thighs separate like that. For this character, really don't know how it's going to work. What Slamurai says, really true, because actually Intel GPU support is really bad in lots of programs. And yeah, when you have two GPUs on laptops, I've had the same problem. Krita was using my Intel GPU, although I have a Quadro inside of this. And so I've had to manually go into my NVIDIA settings to replace that. Okay, so the way the artist does it right there is he has this body part. So he has something like that. Hold on. We're going to grab that white. So we're going to have base of the pants here into that body part. Well, today is not a great productive day, but well. I feel slow working on that character. It's crazy. But anyway, yeah, if you split your files, if you use it right, Krita would be fast enough, I think, for professional game art as well now. Right now, I wouldn't have said so again back in the start when I used 2.9 and even with 3.0, but now as it's getting more and more stable and the feature set has expanded and performance has got a lot better, I would recommend it. It's just for the needs of game art, I'd say, compared to something like be it Photoshop or Affinity Designer, it lacks a few tools to manage the assets, export them efficiently, and break down your files to keep performances, like to keep the workflow as smooth as can be, right? And but if you have that, if you have these few tools, you should be able to keep the painting experience pretty seamless, in which case it doesn't matter that this or that other program is faster, you know. How can I make the leg here? What shape should we use? Because if we want to animate it, we should have 2 limbs, right? But I think we're not going to make the character run at first. Okay, I'm going to end the live stream soon because I've got to do some code review afterwards, do a bit of programming, and I do want to do some work away from the stream to work on my workflow speed in Krita to set it back up. Anyway, as Razdan will get to work on the add-on as well, I'll do some testing and have the opportunity to optimize the workflow a little bit. But one thing from that stream that I feel definitely could use some improvement is maybe I need to work again like so, like not with so many layers, but instead painting inside of the existing layers. Like that. And just painting the sprites as fast as possible. Not trying to like adding layers has really slowed down the file, the process, so I think I should be doing myself a disservice trying to make it work that way. Okay, so now the plants look horrible here. Let's add that curve back. Not sure how to get the legs to work well, to keep a good shape and to make them animatable, so I'll have to give this a try in Godot, but for now we're going to have you like that. Where's sketches are right here. I don't like her face so much. Uh, 5K pixels with a fancy brush, use 23% of the GPU, 26% of CPU, and really lagged. Okay, how about 1000 then, which is the maximum in Krita? Because in Krita you can't go up to 5000. A really complex brush would be like complex dual brush with texture and all would certainly lag at 5000 pixels, but it wouldn't even draw in Krita. Anyway, you can't. The cap is 1000. Does the tutorial on hold on. David says I found no replacement for Krita's W key. Yeah, so the ability to repeat the texture and to wrap around is excellent. It's a great feature, definitely. Clip Studio is my primary 2D editor. Yeah, Clip Studio is a great program, really fast. And really, like it's... When I tried it, it felt really easy to use and very comfortable at the same time. The drawing was like the feel when drawing was really especially good. Does the tutorial on melee attack hitbox animation also applies to keyframe animation in Godot? Yeah, sure. Sure, you can animate the hitboxes however you want, if that's the question. The only thing is when you do hitbox animation, so you can do it frame by frame and all, you've just got to get a good hang of how the areas work and collision detection works. But yeah, anyway, for zero for your problem, I'd be very, very, very surprised if you told me that actually you get better performance, drawing performance, and a smoother drawing experience in Photoshop compared to and if you got a smoother painting experience in Krita performance-wise compared to Photoshop, because that's not my experience. Again, as much as I like Krita and the developers' work, it's always slowed down as you add layers for me. And raw painting performance in my test was a lot better in Photoshop. But again, I understand that the brush engine is also simpler. Although, to be honest, I prefer to have a fairly simple engine, but you know, where the brushes are also simpler to edit and that still gives you enough control. Well, Krita, a lot of the controls now, they are like, even in the UX, even if the sensors are still going to be there, now they are taking Scott in his work on the brush editor's UX is going to hide some of the sensors that no one uses, basically. That the options were there from the beginning. I think it's more from developers or from users who don't really do art for a living necessarily. You know, who might have said at some point that, well, we should expose all the sensors we have in the code to all brushes. Well, if you use a tool like Clip Studio or Photoshop, in the brush editor, you'll only get the relevant sliders where it's important. Like, you don't, in Krita's brush editor, if you go, well, this is a very simple brush, but you get that list of controllers for the size parameter. But do you really want to control the size over time, or the size based on tangential pressure, or the size based on the drawing angle? You know, do you really want that? I'm not sure you need that. So these are exposed and they are available if you ever want to experiment with the feature, but most likely you will not use it. And the thing is, when you make these decisions in development, it's always a trade-off. So you have to choose whether you expose all the features for maybe the few people who might need it, but this will have a cost learning-wise, you know. And because it adds to the learning curve, it's also going to cost a little bit on the usability front. Because, for example, making the Krita brushes, I've had to learn to try all the options to learn what to never use. Like, okay, now when I design the brushes, just go through the parameters and I'm like, it's like I don't even see some of these anymore because I've tested them all and it's like, I can't use that. Or I won't use that. And I understand the logic behind the Krita developers' choices. They've tried from the start to give you a lot of flexibility and control in how the tools work, exposing a lot of information, while proprietary painting programs often do things the other way around. They try to hide everything that you will not use. Okay, let's do a simple like that for now. And I think that's really a place where Godette shines, where they take professional users most of the time, not only professionals, but they look at how people make games and what they miss when making the games, and the features that people miss the most, and they prioritize them really, really well. And they worked on performances from the start, and always, you know, it's development is going really well with Godot. And also one thing that I particularly like with Juan and Remy is if someone comes and says, this program is shit because XYZ, they don't get in a defensive state. They only look at the valid criticism from the person, and like the insults and all that stuff, it's like, it doesn't exist, we don't care. They just keep the conversation going. Unless the person is really just offensive or trolling, in which case they will moderate, but they don't get, especially Juan doesn't get emotional about it. And a lot of other open source projects do. And I can understand that because it's not easy, you know. And sometimes I get the same with YouTube, where people say, oh, you're an absolutely terrible teacher, you wasted my time, and fuck you, and all that stuff, insults like these. You know, I get comments like these from time to time, and pausing and taking the time to say, oh, can you tell me why you got that frustrated so I can, you know, fix it in the future? Most of the time you won't get a reply, but sometimes people say, oh, well, sorry, I got carried away, and it will give you constructive feedback at that time. And that's the time you want to listen and get, you know, when you get this kind of negative feedback, you want to help people show that you can go past the frustration and all, because often if you hit a nerve with something, it means that there might be room for improvement, you know. Sorry, I got a bit carried away with that discussion, but adding stamps took a lifetime to get to work, and that wasn't even that good. If you ever have a tutorial on that, let me know, I'll watch it. These sound like your videos when you do the live stream. I have some screen caps on my Twitter with performances. I will agree, Krita may fall short using layers, but it really seemed better in raw performance on brushes. Okay. Intcat says, following on that little bit of conversation, just say you're totally not a terrible teacher, so it's good you don't let these types of comments get to you. Okay, so following on what I was saying, Juan these kinds of things don't get to him because I don't care about being good or bad, and I think he's similar to that. I care about doing works that helps people, okay? And I don't even think about whether I'm good or bad, or I'm a good fit for what I'm doing and all, because at first none of us are. You have to do the work to get good enough to then provide people with the content or the tools or whatever they need, okay? So for example, to become an artist and a professional artist, you've got to make terrible art and put it out there and get feedback on it again and again and again. And to make good tutorials, and to become a good teacher, you have to be a bad teacher first, okay? So you're bound to do it. And so I know that my first videos are very far from the quality of the current ones, a lot of them, you know. I'm aware that my accent and my pronunciation and the flow of my speech got better over time. Things like these. And I'm aware that, and you should be aware that sometimes, like, making these videos is really, it's not fun. To be fair, making tutorials is not always a really fun job. And so I've had times where I've made videos and I was like, I'm fed up with it, and I should spend that extra 2 hours adding overlays or writing a script and all. And I most of the time I'm conscientious, but sometimes I've not been, and I'm really aware of that. So I'll gladly accept criticism, and it's not just being conscientious or not being cautious, sorry, or not. It's also about education doesn't make that much money. Less so if you're working with open source or covering open source programs like I do. To make a living, you do have to balance quantity and quality. So you have to improve the quality iteratively moving forward. But I think it's true for a lot of things, and I've realized that you are blogging, if you are making games and all that stuff, you have to put the games out to get the feedback that allows you to create a better project next time, and you've got to get that experience of releasing and getting people's real feedback on it. So with tutorials, you've got to put these series out to get people's feedback on them and all. Anyway, once you realize all that you've got to go through that phase of not being, like, just being bad at what you do, and that you've got to forget about whether you are good or not, or whether you are valid as an artist or not. People have that imposter syndrome. I would say I don't have it, because once you realize that it's okay to no one is good from the start, and no one is always good. I remember that's also something I learned doing martial art. It's that the best boxer, for example, I've been doing boxing. The best boxer on a bad day, someone who's really trained may still beat you, but when you reach a certain training level, and if you train regularly, not doing that many hours, you can beat a champion. Like, you reach a point where not the ultimate absolute, those absolute masters or people who train relentlessly, maybe not them, but you can train you can beat a local champion as a kind of a rookie with just a bit of experience. It's like you reach the point where about anyone can beat anyone. It depends on the fight, the setting, and then you realize that how could I say, in art you work a bit more in isolation. You don't have as much of a reference, because everyone's art and skills are quite different at the end of the day. It's not as measurable, but I've seen that with boxing, where you are weak and pretty bad for a certain time, where you have to train the technique. When you reach a certain point, it's like reaching the professional levels. Sometimes if you're on a bad day, you won't be as productive or as good as on other days. So in the case of fights, it means that if you are against someone who's a lot more experienced than you, even if they are more powerful, faster and all, on a slightly bad day, you may be above them temporarily, right? So putting out content is the same thing. You're not always at your best, but This is not what makes you an artist or not, always doing perfect or great work. What makes you an artist is putting your vision out to the world. That's what defines you. Being a professional is putting out work regardless of the circumstances, okay? I'm not a great artist, but I can do professional art because with requirements, today is not a great day, for instance, but I can put out art, I can be consistent in my output more or less any day, any time, on any job. That's what makes a professional, right? Anyway, time to close the stream for now. So at least we have one character, we have two concepts, and I really want her to have a better face. I think I will go and study some character sprites and try to maybe copy a little bit to try to get better eyes and a better face shape, something like that. Thank you very much for having joined this one. I'll definitely do some more, but next I've got to do some code review and maybe cook a little bit as well. What time is it? Yeah, it's gonna be time to do a bit of cooking. So thank you very much. I'm closing the stream now. Have a good day, evening, whatever, but more importantly, be creative, have fun, and we'll see you in the next one. We'll see one another in the next one. Bye-bye.